I had about a quarter of my presentation completed. It was real good, spontaneous, unrehearsed. And they said there was an error and they blocked it. So I will try again. Why I Replaced Einstein, copyrighted by Doxy Castellano. Doxy PhD Company, May 20th, 2015. Simi Valley, California, 93063, USA. Now, I never really wanted to replace Einstein. I still don't think I replaced him. But the way things occurred, as I look back, that's the way I was forced in that direction. Well, so I just present the true facts and let the chips fall where they may. Now, I presented my previous video. I put special effort to be where it was a professional, scientific presentation where any scientist, engineer, etc. could comment, participate, give me some credit, whatever. None said anything. So the only thing I can do now is what they call a court of last resort, and that is I have to get public opinion to say, look, this man was forcibly robbed of his honors and considerable wealth, and by the Constitution, the laws of God, of man, Constitution, Bill of Rights, he must be honored and reasonably compensated. So I can say that, I can make that statement. Well, you say, well, then you have to say, who really was Einstein? What did he really achieve? And who really am I? What have I really achieved? And the true facts are shaking the pillars of this USA, because he, criminally insane, J. Edgar Hoover, used crimes of genocide against my father's family and now my family and many others. Really. So I will present the true facts, and that is, I always noticed that I seemed to think of something in science that would improve conditions. And I made 4 years high school and 3 A's in physics and math. Well, there was a war on, and the Nazis were committing horrible genocide, and the Wehrmacht appeared unstoppable. So I volunteered to fight the Nazis, and I thought about maybe if I get to go to West Point, be a leader and officer. And this was verified, in my opinion, when the interviewer in the officer program, it was the Army Air Corps, said that I've been doing this for 3 years, and you are the best, or at least one of the best I've ever interviewed to be an officer. And I says, well, thank you, sir. And he said, we will make you an officer and a gentleman. And I said, well, sir, I'm already a gentleman. All you have to do is make me the best officer you can. And I saluted, and he smiled and saluted. Now, during World War II, though, I sustained a bad injury. and I got injured. I suffered injuries from 1944 to 1946. In July of 1947, I could play baseball real good. Now, I was born in upstate New York, and I have that voice, and that's how they spoke. None of us thought we had an accent. We all spoke that way. But I was a leadoff batter, what they called a holler guy. So my voice is that of a holler guy, of a New Yorker, and this is my speaking voice, which reminds me of one of my academic humorous stories, is that Enrico Fermi came over from Italy with two other scientists, Emilio Segre and Ernesto Piccioni. Emilio Segre was a brilliant mathematical physicist, and he did quite a bit of the important mathematics on atomic fission. Ernesto Piccioni was a physical laboratory physicist, and but he was the first to sue other scientists because he said, I wanted proper honors. So that caught my attention, of course. So I got to be friends with him, and he invited me to his home, and while we're having a good drink and so forth, he was trying to discover what came first. And now I said, I put it forward in mathematical physics, and not one answered. So my only possibility is that the general public that understands just explanations of universal phenomena, putting it forward and explaining it to them, because I need, if they can obtain for me reasonable honors in financial compensation, that's what I must have by the Constitution, and it would be good for me and for them, because obvious by them forcing and robbing me, they can do it to anybody, which they have done. They're shadow government, horrible crimes. Now, what came first, the chicken or the egg? In other words, he's working in the laboratory, and did the particles come first, or was there a creative mass, like that of man was created, and from man came other men, and so forth? Or was it by something of a process in which man developed from the makings of a man, and then etc. So I can prove anything I ever say, which I did in the previous video. Now in this one, I'm going to explain to the general public, hoping to try to get their support for my and their constitutional rights. And that is, I said, well, I'll prepare for college studies. I had baseball. I was good in baseball. And I could play for the Rochester Red Wings. And then the Cardinals Red Wings were their #1 farm team. Played for the Cardinals, or if I ever played for the Yankees, with me at second base, Crosetti at shortstop, DiMaggio in center field, Berra, I don't think we ever would have lost the game, honestly. So I would make a name for myself in baseball and go into baseball managing, and see that I thought I could be a presidential candidate, really. So I was real good at what was national, international events. Now, I got about this far and they interrupted. So I'll proceed. I never want to replace Einstein, and I don't think I really have, but when you look at it, what occurred is that with him not there, it just seems as though I can make that statement now. And let's go with the true facts and let the chips fall where they may. Who really was Einstein? What did he really do? Because there was everything that he said that they hyped him with was shown to be plagiarized, except E equals MC squared. Then I find out in an Italian Cultural Society newspaper that he stole Olinto de Preto's E equals mv squared. Really. And a mathematical professor and a mathematician, mathematical professor and mathematical historian, wrote a book about that, Einstein and Olinto de Preto and E equals mv squared. You see, they say Einstein put forward E equals mc squared. They don't know what they're talking about. It's now used E equals mc squared. But Olinto de Preto put forward E equals mv squared, v the velocity of light. And he showed, with some calculations, the enormous transformation from a little bit of mass into tons of coal. And they had a little scientific club. Olinto de Preto, his two brothers, Michael Basso, his cousin, and Einstein. And they would discuss what was new, and de Preto showed him his work and calculations. Now, they say Einstein didn't show any reference, so you can't prove that he plagiarized somebody else's work. In my research, which now may be the most correct on the internet, there were actually two references. One was his wife, Olivia Marek, who signed her name, her birth name, which only did on official documents, and she was a mathematician. Now get this, for and worked with, she was a mathematician with Hermann Minkowski. Einstein flunked mathematics at the university, and Olivia Marek and Minkowski convinced him not to drop out of school and to take up science. And Olivia Marek worked for Leonard, Professor Leonard, and Professor Leonard put forward the photoelectric effect in 1900. And when Einstein got the Nobel Prize for the photoelectric effect, Leonard really started to argue and was getting, I think, ready to present court action. When Einstein got the check, notice this, from the Nobel Prize Committee, he immediately countersigned the entire check to Olivia Marek, working for Professor Leonard, who then didn't take court action. True facts. Now, therefore, especially when I've always been a religious man, thought of being a priest, but they said, no, you can't because you're married. And I said, well, St. Peter was married, and so many early fathers of the church were married. So I went into where I have universal pure Christians. Not that we are purer than anyone else. It's that we have the clearest, therefore purest comprehension, explanation, and presentation of why Christ was really on earth and what you should do. And I don't lie. So, especially when I got into preaching, because I defended especially girls who were being attacked by religious fanatics, anti-religious, bad fanatics. I would get them to, from hitting her to try to hit me. When they hit me, well, I'd hit them twice as hard. That they got so angry they got lawyers going to sue me and got me off the internet. No. So I don't lie. So let's get to the true facts of who really was Einstein. What did he really do? What did I really achieve? And therefore, who really am I? And how I can make that claim and demand, not ask, demand, honors and reasonable financial compensation. So, when Einstein wrote a book, and I conferred at length with the author, and the author said I had him check every word of every sentence, of every paragraph, of every page to be exactly the way he wanted them, his words. Then, and only then, would I print it. I said, well, thank you, that's all I want to know. Because Einstein said that in order to understand this universe like he does, you have to think irrationally and use a mathematical schema. I'm a rational man. I want to think rationally, 2 feet on the ground, and put forward what I consider to be the real functions, phenomena that are occurring, and explain them rationally, because I think that's the best way to do it. But Einstein did it this way. He wanted to get a job as a college instructor, and he wasn't being hired. So he took and plagiarized Lorentz's work, Lorentz's transformation equations, which he had to say they were, because that's the title of them, Lorentz's transformation equations, and Poincare's work. There was a World's Fair in St. Louis in 1904, and they held then a world conference of the best scientists. So anybody that was anything in science, and Einstein at that time worked at the patent office in Switzerland, where all the scientists sent their papers and they all talked about new work and what was going on. Who helped them get there was Michael Beso. Who's Michael Beso? Olinto de Preto's cousin. Do you understand? So he gave 2 references. He said he didn't give any references. One was Olivia Merrick, and the other was Michael Beso. So they can't say he didn't give any references. And these are true facts. They cover up. They want them to pipe them up and want to keep them as a... And so Einstein was the greatest plagiarist. Let's get to what he knew and presented. Well, in his book, which I rewrote, in the discipline of theology, he didn't really know the discipline of theology. In the discipline of cosmology, which is a science branch, the only thing he knew was that the universe consisted of our Milky Way. Well, that's just our galaxy. When he came here to the U.S. and went to Mount Palomar in Southern California, the cosmologists had to give him crash courses of what the universe was and what they were presenting in order for him to understand what they were doing. They had to give him crash courses in cosmology. Yet they talk about Einstein about space and space-time like he knew everything about space and he practically invented space. You see, they just hype. And let's go then with his mathematical physics. Well, in order to, really get this mathematical physics, Now, presenting this to the general public, Galileo Galilei was the father of modern science, but he was extraordinary and a real clear, practical thinker. He put forward the laws of motion, the action and equal and opposite reaction, that gravity attracts all bodies equally, regardless of their size and weight, and in the pendulum, that the swing of the pendulum will hold its swing in that path and continue with equal arcs. And from that, they were able to establish pendulum clocks. He improved the telescope where you could see moons, and he could record moons going around a planet. He realized that sound waves travel through air, metal, and water, and then calculated the velocity of the sound wave by having a cannon flash and then seeing how much time it took to go from that mountaintop to him. And then for his universal V equals D over T, if V is singular, it's V equals D over T. If there's the medium is with the sound wave, you add it. So he has the universal law of the addition of component velocities. A powerful absolute truth that you must realize what that is, and it's important that it's true and you cannot violate it. And that's what Einstein violates. And I think I will prove that. So now, Galileo solved every project he worked on except to catch the velocity of light. And the reason he couldn't do that is because at his time, they had a 1 second water drop clock. Well, the velocity of light is so great that in the time you say 1001, which takes 1 second, the velocity of light is so great it will have gone by you 7 times, circle the earth at least 7 times. You understand? So now, I presented hydrogen fusion, H-bomb, at the University of Rochester in a secret meeting. And Hoover figured, well, they'll ask, who is this man and why is he on the project as the excuse? But I could have worked as a science tech way in the periphery, just taking data while I studied. No, he said, he's doing my work fast and accurate. I can use that. So Hoover forced me with my abilities to work for him. Well, I was catered to, and well, they're going to have a high party. And I figured, well, yeah, I'd meet Hoover face to face. And when I got there, I didn't see any girls. So I said, where are the girls? And I asked the host, and the host said, well, Hoover doesn't have a party with girls. And I looked at him, he said, he has a party with young boys. What? Why? He says, and you have the choice of one of those 2 young men over there. What? And I just took and stormed out. So now I'm at the absolute top. What a tremendous paradox. At the same time now, Hoover has me on his enemy list. So these are the facts leading up to where I take and rewrite Einstein's universe and Dr. Einstein. because getting right to the point, he plagiarized Lorentz, and when I talked to him, he took his name off of what's called the Lorentz-Einstein transformation equation. Believe it or not, I say, well, in the Lorentz, and out of politeness, say Lorentz-Einstein transformation equation. He says, no, it's just Lorentz's transformation equation. Do you understand? When I proved my advanced concepts in theoretical mathematical physics, especially through demonstration theoretical experiment, in that my capital X prime equals capital X minus VT over the square root of 1 minus the quantity A squared over capital C squared, where capital C is equal to or greater than the velocity of light. And he said, well, when do you think this? I said, well, I think they actually now at CERN can get an increment of superluminous velocity, and I think by, this is 1955, I think by 1975, they will have superluminous velocities regularly breaking the light barrier, BLB. And well, in our conferences, then I said, well, because I wanted to get out from Hoover, and he wanted to get on a good project. Hoover wouldn't let him. So I said, well, we can work together on a unified field theory. They're trying to get this completed as fast as I can. On a UFT, unified field theory. And he says, you're absolutely right. Doesn't have the right to decide who can work together on what. He said, I don't care what. He says, we will begin working together a week from today. Wow, great. Einstein dropped dead the night before we were to begin working together on a valid unified field theory. What a coincidence. I have to suspect Hoover. I really have to. He has killed off many that, as far as I know, I'm the only one that ever has gone up against him and tried to really get him out that is still alive. Kennedy didn't shoot himself. Bobby didn't shoot himself. Martin Luther King didn't shoot himself. Do you understand? All of those wanted to were out. No. So this is then part one. I'll have to continue with part two tomorrow. And where, but I will put this forward, is that if you take Einstein's rho, the Greek symbol for momentum, rho equals mvr, and I have rho prime equals m prime v prime r. If my rho prime equals his rho, it's shown in the laboratory, and I set r to unity, then his rho equals mv, and my rho prime m prime v prime equals his rho. If I have, I explained to him my infinitesimal particle theory, as my mass, m prime, decreases towards infinitesimal, there is a particle of less mass than his photon, because Compton proved a photon has momentum. And in my opinion, if you have momentum, you have to have mass. So his book of relativity, Einstein will fall. And you put it back up again and it falls. Put it back up again on the point of a fulcrum and it falls because you can't see a particle m prime less than the photon. My velocity must, at least by advanced concepts of theoretical mathematical physics, have where velocities greater for capital X prime equals capital X plus or minus over the square root of 1 minus the quantity v squared over capital C squared, where capital C is equal to or greater than the velocity of light. And he agreed. Now, that's part one. I have part two tomorrow. Thank you.